Okay, thank you, everyone. Welcome to the March 28th, 2024 Halifax Water Board of Commissioners meeting. We have item number 1 on the agenda is ratification of in-camera motions. Could I have somebody make that motion?
I can move ratification of the in-camera motions.
Thank you, Commissioner Russell. Do I have a seconder? Commissioner Zaharov has seconded that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion is carried. Okay, we have approval of the order of business, approval of additions and deletions. Are there, can somebody make that motion?
I can move.
Go ahead, Commissioner Zaharov.
I move that the Halifax Water Board approve the order of business and approve additions and deletions.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder?
A second.
Commissioner Kent. Any additions or deletions to the agenda as presented? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion is carried. We have approval of the minutes of the public meeting held on Thursday, February 22nd, 2024. I have a motion.
And I can move that.
Go ahead, Commissioner Russell.
I move approval of the minutes of February 22nd, 2024.
I can second that,
Russell?
Madam Chair.
Vice Chair Digo Gavin has seconded. Any errors or omissions on the minutes? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor of the minutes as presented, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion is carried. I did not see any business arising. Did you see anything, Kenda or Colin Taylor?
I don't believe so.
No, I didn't make note of anything either.
Okay, thank you. Okay, item 5.1, operating results for the 10 months ended January 31st, 2024. Louis de Montbron.
So thank you very much. I will do a quick update in terms of where we were at the end of January. I always start with the amount of cash we have in the bank. As of the end of January, we had approximately 55 million. Update as of Monday morning, we had approximately $46 million in the bank. So we continue to have a healthy cash balance. The next item I tend to go to is our operating results. So I'm on page 5 of 11 of the report, where we had at the end of January a surplus of about 3.2 million. We had a budget of a deficit of 2.3, so we're better off than we anticipated we would be. The expectation is those results will continue to the end of the year. We're anticipating that that will end the year in the surplus, but as always happens, year end always has ways of throwing curveballs at us. But we are at the end of March. We're about to produce our March financial statements. So as those come in, we'll be updating the board again. Specifically, I also tried to look at the revenue side on the consumption revenue, most specifically. That's gone up approximately $11 million from last year at the end of January. Increase one, we of course had an increase in our rates as of April 1st, which will drive some of the increase, and we continued through to January to have a fairly healthy increase of approximately 2% in our consumption. So both of those have a positive impact on our revenue. Specifically, as it looks at the surplus that we are projecting to the end of January, we do have for water, we have a deficit of 1.5 million, which is approximately where we'd expect to be at this time of year. Wastewater had a fairly healthy surplus, which again, we anticipate will come down over the next couple of months after to the end of March. Stormwater, the deficit as of the end of January was above where we thought it would be. Most of that difference is driven by, we do have a significant number of stormwater only customers that are billed in the February, March timeframe. So once those bills go out, we anticipate that deficit will return or will reduce by the end of March. So that's my quick update. Happy to answer any questions if people have any questions on the specifics.
Thank you, Louis, for that. Any questions for Louis? Hearing none. Thank you, Louis.
Thank you.
You are still up. 5.2, the 2024 spring debenture. I have a motion to be put on the floor before we ask Louis to speak. Mr. Kolomitsa?
Yep. I move that Halifax Water Board approve the following. 1, approve the financing of $15 million with a 30-year amortization term and finance over 10 years. The maximum all-inclusive rate is not to exceed 6.5%. 2, approve the refinancing of $2,784,599 with a 10-year amortization term and financing over 10 years with an all-inclusive rate not to exceed 6.5%.
I'll second.
Mr. Zahara has seconded. Thank you. We'll move to Louis and then move to discussion. Go ahead, Louis.
So as part of our budget for 24-25, we the board approved approximately $80 million in new debt. What we're doing here is requesting that $15 million formally be issued through this initial part of the year. Originally, we had budgeted for that, the full 80 million to be taken out in the fall debenture. We're asking for 15 million instead to be taken out in the spring. Taking it out earlier in the spring does add cost. We estimate that if our rate that we used in the budget of about 5%, if the debt comes in at that level, it will cost us an additional $500,000 at our audit and finance committee. The request was to determine the amount if we use the maximum of 6.5%. If our debt does come in at 6.5, that will increase our cost by approximately $100,000. It's a fairly standard process that we go through where we ask for approval. It goes from here, assuming it's accepted, to the Utility Review Board, and then to the province, and the debt is formally requested and issued in the future. The 6.5% is the province advises us to use an upper limit. If it does turn out that the debt will cost us more than 6.5% in interest, we are required to come back to the board for approval. We do not anticipate it'll be 6.5%, but that gives us a little bit of flexibility if the costs come in a little higher than we think. The second part of that is, as we have issued debt in the past, we issued debt in the past over 20 years. At the 10-year mark, we're required to come back in and reissue debt. So there's a balloon payment that we make. That balloon payment is refinanced, in this case, for another 10 years. And that additional request is for $2.7 million. Again, we use the upside amount of 6.5%. And we go through essentially the same process, going from our board to the Utility Review Board to the province for formal issuance of debt. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Louis. Any questions for Louis? No. We'll put the motion to the question. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion is carried. Thank you, Louis.
Thank you.
We're going to move forward to capital approvals, but we would like to indicate that this will be Reed Campbell's last appearance asking for money from us. Are you there, Reed?
Madam Chair, yes.
So before we start, we would like to congratulate you, Reed, on your upcoming retirement and thank you for your dedication and passionate service to Halifax Water. We would not be the successful organization we are today without your diligent efforts. And I've had the opportunity in my career to interact with you many, many times, but I cannot appropriately describe all of your successes and your passion for Halifax Water. So I've asked Kathy O'Toole to help me with that so that on the behalf of the board, we can appropriately thank you. So I'm going to turn it over to Kathy O'Toole.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And, my comments are very similar to the thanks that I expressed at Halifax Regional Council's meeting on March 26th. And Mayor and Council have already extended their thanks and congratulations to you on your retirement. But for any members of the public who are watching, Reed Campbell has been with Halifax Water for 26 years and has had some critical roles, including Director of Water Services and now Director of Engineering and Technology Services, and has been at the utility on all major projects, I would say, for the last 26 years. All of the strategies that have helped the utility keep water flowing, keep the water supply safe, Reed's been involved with, and he's been involved with some significant innovations for customers. The two that come to mind for me were the leading the team that created the lead service line replacement program, which was the first of its kind in Canada. And Reed would always point out that there's a team behind him, but it takes somebody to inspire the team and lead the team, and Reed certainly has done that. The other projects that come to mind are a lot of significant capital projects, significant water main replacements, emergency response for Cobequid Road water main replacements, and Dumbrack Street. And he's made a contribution that few members of the public would fully be aware of, but everybody within Halifax Water is aware of. And you will leave a gaping hole in the utility, Reed. I know that you'll be missed. I'm so pleased that you're going to continue to be involved with the water industry and look forward to your continuing involvement within the municipality. I hope you come back and try to serve on some agencies, boards, or committees, because we'd appreciate your knowledge and your professionalism. Thank you.
So,
Ditto.
thank you very much. That's very kind words. I appreciate it, but I just want to say I've enjoyed working for this board and for Halifax Water every single day of the last 26 years. So it's been my honor and privilege to work here. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Reed. We thought if we showered you with praise, then you wouldn't ask for any more money.
People that work with me need the money. So.
So are you going to present on the next three items?
I can speak quickly on 6.1 and then 6.2 and 6.3. So
go ahead.
Okay, yes. So item 6.1 is our capital report that's prepared by Louis' team, but I can speak to it. I think it's slightly different from previous versions. This is a little easier to get to the numbers that the board is interested in. It shows our targets and our performance. I think the key number is we're showing a 19% thus far at the end of January. I expect that number will be similar by the time all the bills come in and we close projects by the end of the year. We've spoken to you many times and in most detail in our workshop in November on some of this. There's a lot in place that's that's working already, and will continue to work to improve that number. And I think under Josh's leadership in the coming years, we're going to see that come up. Most notably, the way we present the budget every year, and I think the budget that we have is more attuned to the regulatory and planning process that's necessary. The budget we have for next year to get the work done. But I would say specifically on last year, we did have definite plans to have a much higher number. I've shared some of this with you before, but I would point to just a couple things. We have a couple significant projects where the billing has just not come in yet with Nova Scotia Public Works and Cogswell with HRM. We do have a one large project that is going to be led by a developer that is we had hoped would go last year, but will go this coming construction season. We have a couple of significant sewage pumping station projects that we've been in an extended regulatory process with the Nova Scotia Utility and Review Board, and we have had longer, I would say, more detailed processes on more of our capital projects. We've learned that's something Nova Scotia Power has been dealing with for a while, but I'm very pleased to see that in the last year, Josh DeYoung has done a lot of work to streamline and improve that approval process with the URB. So I'm looking forward to seeing that continue. We also budgeted last year $9 million for design of Mill Cove. We were probably premature in doing that, but you approved that expenditure of that money at the January meeting, and that's currently in front of the Nova Scotia Utility and Review Board. And we did have a couple minor projects delayed by the flooding, particularly integrated projects with HRM. And just briefly to let you know, in the last couple months, in November, or last couple board meetings, and in January, you approved about 5 very significant projects. Of the 5, we have approval on 2. We are in paper hearings on 2 at the URB, and we've just, the 2 that were approved in January, we have just begun a routine approval, and we've just begun a paper approval on another one. And that one is the Sullivan's project, or Sawmill Creek, that we're doing with the city. And I believe we've been successful in provincial funding for that, so which is going to help out both us and HRM in paying for that. But that is currently in front of the URB. But so if there's questions, I'll answer them. But that's my comments on 6.1.
Thank you, Reid.
And if I may add,
Go ahead.
the report that's attached highlights that we had spent $64.9 million to the end of January. Just before the meeting, Alicia had looked, we've spent up until today an extra $10 million. So we're over the $74 million mark. And to Reid's point, there are a couple of big invoices that we're expecting that we think will move that even further.
Thank you, Louis. That's very helpful. Any questions for Reid? Okay, Reid, you can keep going. 6.2 Mount Edward Reservoir Project. I have a motion to be put on the floor.
Put that on the floor, Madam Chair.
Go ahead, Commissioner Kent.
I move that Halifax Water approve the replacement of the Mount Edward Reservoir number 1 for total project cost of $23,774,000 to be included in the 2024-25 and the 25-26 capital budgets.
Do I have a seconder? Commissioner Deagle-Gammon. Go ahead, Reid. Any description?
Yeah, talk about that briefly, Madam Chair. Thank you. And I will also introduce Tom Gorman, who you've seen before. Tom is with me to help with any questions. Tom is our Senior Manager of Infrastructure Planning, and Tom's hands have been all over all our reservoir projects in the last few years. This is a significant project. It is not going to be constructed until next construction season, but we're bringing it to you at this time with preliminary cost estimates because we expect an extended approval process at the Nova Scotia Utility Review Board. And with the market for limited contractors in North America to build reservoirs like this, the timing of when you go to market is crucial. So we're looking to get ahead of that process. And I should start off by offering a bit of an apology to the board. You will see an inconsistency in the report, in the estimate table that came attached to the package versus the financial ask, and I'll speak to the reason for that in a second. The updated estimate will be put in board books later today, and Nicole can put it up on the screen if you would like to take a look at it. And so and the reason for that is, I will maybe jump to that part quickly. Halifax Water builds either steel or concrete reservoirs, as explained in the report. At this particular size, we're in a spot where there is about a $6 million cost difference from a capital basis on the two options. But if you look at a life cycle cost analysis, the two of them are quite competitive. So what we are planning to do is, and we have work to do to make sure we do this well, is to go to market with both options. There are limited numbers of vendors in both technologies. So what we're hoping is we will get a much more competitive process by making it open to both steel and concrete tank vendors. So our approval request is based on the cost of a steel tank, which is the more expensive of the two options. But what we attached to the board report as a cost estimate was the cost of a concrete tank. And so the steel one Nicole has and can put up, and it will be put in board books today, but the report reflects the capital cost of a steel reservoir. This is one of two 5 million gallon storage facilities we have in the middle of the Dartmouth system at Mount Edward Road, not far from the Lake Major treatment plant. The steel one that we have there now, it was built in 1999 when we built the water supply plant. The concrete one is from the 70s. And I could tell you very early in my tenure at Halifax Water, one of the projects I was assigned in engineering was to repair and rehabilitate the concrete Mount Edward Reservoir that we're asking to replace today. And quite literally, back in 1999 or 2000, we were trying to stop the leakage. And at some point, you had to stop spending money because we could still be there if we didn't call that project up. But it has advanced to the point where it needs to be replaced. So I think with that, we'll turn it over to questions, and Tom can certainly answer any questions that I can't.
That seems very fitting, Reed. And the reservoir may be easier to replace than you. Go ahead, Commissioner Kolomeitsev.
Thank you. My question was about the address. I looked up the 115 Mount Edward Road, and I see there's a house there currently. Is this a new lot where the new build would take place, or is the build taking place on the existing lot? And the other part of that question was, for the existing one, is the demolition part of this project, or would that be a separate project you'd be coming back later to achieve once you have a new one built?
I'll try the first one, and Tom can correct me where I get wrong in the first one, and I'll hand over the second part to Tom. Without knowing what you saw, Commissioner, it is on the existing lot that we have with the two reservoirs, and then there's a third location. Very near our reservoirs are very much to the back of the lot, and there's some elevation, so you can't necessarily see them from the road. We do have a pumping station that's about the size of a house at the front of the lot, so it may be that, or it may be something that's adjacent. But Tom, is that correct, or do you want to answer the question about demolition?
We are building on the same lot. If the address listed is incorrect, it might be a Google mistake, but it's certainly on the same lot. We looked at building. The property is large enough to have 3 reservoirs if we ever needed it, but we are in the process. Demolition will be part of the project. It's including these costs. And so we'll be removing the existing one. Each a steel option or a concrete have slightly different construction costs in terms of preparation and excavation. but both of them do include the demolition costs. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Commissioner Zahav?
Thanks, Madam Chair. Reid, I have a few pleas on this one. So I noticed in the report that the reservoir size is based on the integrated master plan from 2019. So it's fairly significant investment. Is that plan adequate with regards to the current growth in the HRM? Should that address all the Halifax Water needs going forward?
Go ahead, Tom.
Yes, so we're replacing like with like, so it's the same size as going back in. Our consultant CBCL was asked to look at the IMP, and they used the Atlantic Canada guidelines for the design. We were also aware of additional development that we've become aware of since the IMP in the last 3 or 4 years. And that was included and that was built into the package, into the design requirements. And CBCL came up with, we were marginally larger than those requirements even going into the future. So for the lifetime of this project, we're pretty comfortable. I think it was telling us we were maybe 90% of what we needed with all the growth, and rather than make it smaller, we were going with the same size. So from our point of view, it's the right size.
Okay, thanks. There is also mention on that application that will have to be filed with Nova Scotia Environment and Climate Change. I'm wondering if there is any guidelines on metal versus concrete from that organization. Do you guys expect any pushback from them on either of the chosen options, or it's just a standard part of the procedure?
Yeah, not at all. From a water quality point of view, they're essentially neutral and their choices all around North America. The reason for going to the Department of Environment is essentially just more of a capacity and sort of a servicing question, not necessarily water quality or any issues like that. It's really more to make sure the distribution system's adequate and that we're meeting all requirements.
Okay, understood. Thanks. Last question. The incremental cost for designing both options. I totally understand the competitiveness part. I guess your expectation there that the benefit of having more bids will exceed the cost of basically designing 2 tanks and using only one design.
Yeah, essentially we'll be taking the design to the point where it's a very specialty design, and what normally happens is there's a degree of performance-based requirements where the suppliers of the materials do a lot of the detailed structural design. So we want to make sure the design requirements are spelled out for what we're getting. We want to make sure there's a common foundation requirement that's built in from a design point of view. So to answer your question, there is a component. I think it's probably less than $100,000 from a cost from a design point of view.
Mhm.
But this is a significant project, and if we don't do this, we would be cutting the number of competitive bidders probably in half, because one group would find out the other wasn't involved, and it does have a significant impact on price. So we do, in answer to your question, yeah, there is a significant benefit in carrying both of these horses in the race for as long as we can, and it's a small investment in a grand scheme of things, in my opinion.
Yeah, understood. Thanks, Tom. I'm done, Madam Chair.
That was my question. So thank you for addressing, Tom. I do like the innovation, and I'm sure the findings will benefit us in the future as well. Go ahead, Commissioner Cuddle.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Just to follow up on Mimi's point, I did look this up on HRM maps, our internal maps, and the address for the tanks is 157. 115 is a house that's next to Mount Edward Elementary School. I do know that sometimes there's a disconnect between Google and our addressing, but I am looking on HRM Explorer, so.
Yeah, there's a typo there that our valve chamber that's out front is 155. And so I think that's what it should be versus 115.
No, thank you, Commissioner.
We won't be doing any work with the reservoir at 115.
Mhm.
Can we, we'll get it corrected in the public package. Any further questions? Okay, we'll call for the vote. Motion's on the floor. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion is carried. Reed, you're still up. Sunnydale Infrastructure Renewal Project.
Yes, one more, and Josh DeYoung is with me to answer any questions that I can't answer. And of course, as you all know, Josh will be sitting in this chair the next time you all meet. So we're very excited about that. Yeah, this project, it's below the level that is required typically to come to our board at 3.153 million. But the reason it is here is it was not listed in this year's capital budget that you approved in January. And as it's explained in the report, it was on our plan to upgrade the storm sewer system in future years, but it's a corrugated steel storm sewer, which is aging not well. And as a result of the flooding in July, there's been some fairly urgent deterioration of that. So we're not comfortable waiting till next year to replace it and would like to get moving on that this summer. So where it was not in the capital budget that you approved, we're required to bring it here for your approval.
Thank you for that context, Reed. Can I have somebody put the motion on the floor?
Can you do it, Madam Chair?
I can do that.
Go ahead.
Oh,
Oh, Commissioner Zaharoff.
Okay, I'm the first one. Okay, I'll move that the Halifax Water Board approve the Sunnydale Avenue and Windmill Road Infrastructure Renewal Project at an estimated total project cost of $3,153,000, including net HST.
I'll second that.
Commissioner Cuddle will second. Thank you. Any discussion or questions for Reed or Josh?
Question.
Go ahead, Kostya.
Just a quick one on, so this is, it's mentioned in the report, it's a part of the HRM Integrated Street Recapitalization Project in 2025. So should we assume that HRM will be participating in the costs of that project for their respective part, or it's only the Halifax Water project?
I can ask Josh to speak to some of the details, Commissioner, but when we integrate a project with HRM, we typically bring to you the Halifax Water cost, and we do have a long-standing arrangement on how we split costs with HRM. Generally, we pay for our assets, they pay for their assets, and then we split the cost of things like the pavement on top of the trench and curbs and gutters that are common to both projects. But Josh, do you have more details on how we're integrating with them in this case?
Yes, for sure. So this portion of the project is what we would call Halifax Water's kind of standalone work. This phase that we're looking for approval here. The additional piece that you would have identified in the board report is an integrated piece with HRM, and they have that planned for 2025. So in an effort to continue to align with their integrated street recapitalization program, we're looking to do this year and then line up with them next year. And that project would have those items that Reed had just identified.
Okay, so it will be coordinated with them, right? And the approved budget is just for the Halifax Water portion.
Yes.
Okay,
Correct.
thanks.
No further question. We'll call for the vote. All those in favor of the motion on the floor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion is carried. Okay, Reed, we need one more thing from you. maybe you and Kenda could tag team and formally introduce us to Josh.
Sure. Yeah, so maybe Kenda, do you want me to start? And you can, sure. I'm sort of making this up. I was not prepared for this, but I'm so happy to do it. So yes, Josh DeYoung has been with Halifax Water for about 13 years. He comes from a consulting background before that. He's worked in a variety of roles here. He's been a development engineer working in Kenda's group with Kevin Gray. He's been a wastewater ops engineer, working closely with ops on our wet weather program. When Jamie retired and I took over here and the dominoes all fell, he took over one of the capital infrastructure groups for wastewater. And then when we reorganized last year, he was successful in getting a very busy and complicated job of senior manager capital delivery. And now I'm happy to say that he will be taking over for me next week. And Kenda maybe was planning to say this, but for those that don't know, Josh is a very highly qualified and competent at the national level hockey referee, and was in Toronto a weekend ago at the National University Championships.
Thank you,
can't
Reed.
fluster. You can't fluster.
Welcome, Josh.
He's been yelled at by Patrick Waugh in the past, so he's good at dealing with conflict.
So for those of you who don't know, Reed is a very accomplished basketball referee. So we're just really switching sports. Thank you for that, Reed.
Josh, but thank you. Yes.
We are excited for your retirement. We are as excited for Josh to join the executive team. So welcome aboard, Josh. Kenda, did you want to add anything to that?
I think Reed hit all the high points, so we are excited to have Josh join the executive team. And as you said, we'll be sad to see Reed go, but I know where to find him if we have any questions, so we're good that way. But welcome, Josh, and thank you.
Thank you, everybody. I would have to thank Reed, I guess, for the last 3 years of exposure to the reorganization we've gone through and how we've all been involved in where we're headed. So I think that's going to be a benefit, and one of the strengths that I will have bringing to the team is understanding the vision and where we're trying to get to. And I'm already seeing the staff are endorsing that vision and seeing some changes happening. And that's promising. So, but I would like to thank Reed for the last 3 years of mentorship and direction. And I do plan to put your number on speed dial, because I'm quickly discovering there's a lot of things on the go, and most of them involve history. So I'm aware there's a supportive team at the executive level, and I'm looking forward to working with everybody there. But no, I appreciate the kind words and comments, so I'm looking forward to it.
Thanks, Josh.
Well, welcome aboard, and the board looks forward to meeting you in person as well.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Reed, Josh, and Tom. Okay, moving on. Last item, item 7, the corporate balance scorecard. I have a motion to be put on the floor.
I'll put that on the floor.
Go
Madam
ahead,
Chair,
Commissioner Kent.
move the Halifax Water Board approve the corporate balance scorecard targets for the 2024-25 fiscal year, including the organizational award program, which is tied to the outcomes of the corporate balance scorecard organizational indicators as detailed in this report.
I can second that.
Commissioner Cuddle is seconded. Thank you for that. Kenda, do you want to present?
Sure. Yeah. So just as a reminder, the targets and objectives of this, we will have the final numbers after the end of fiscal. But because of timing and logistics and having to get the targets set for the upcoming fiscal, we need to take the report here with the focus on approving the targets for 24-25. and we'll be back in June with the final results of 23-24. And at that time, we'll be evaluating whether or not we met the targets and whether or not an organizational award is available. Just to highlight a couple of the changes this year, as outlined in the report, the top 3 items relating to the finance, we adjusted the targets for the upcoming year. And from our lost time incident target, we've reduced that, as well as we try and improve and enhance our safety program. We said that we were going to adjust that and lower that in a phased approach. So those are the 4 items that had adjustments to them for the upcoming year. And the final version will have all this cleaned up, but there's one box with respect to response time for service connection permits that's showing as red at 85%, but that box should be green. So just a housekeeping item. So if there's any questions on the scorecard.
Any questions? No, I had 2. I think it's an increase. I always struggle with the operating expense to revenue ratio percentage. So in going from 60% to 67%, the recommendation is this is how we fund the program. Any concern with being able to fund the program if we increase the ratio?
So, excuse me, the increase in the ratio is specifically related to our increase in our expenses in our budget. So the revenue has stayed, obviously we haven't built in any revenue increases until we would go through the utility review board process. So the expenses go up. So the percentage, the ratio goes up because of the increase in the expenses. No, if assuming we stick to our budget, then we should be able to pay out the award.
Okay, thank you for that. And second question, first one under operational excellence. You've got adherence with 5 objectives of water safety plan. You seem to typically be over 85, but you have a target of around 80. Any comment on keeping that at 80?
I think we were going to keep it at 80 because we're in the process of transitioning from our water master plan to our water safety plan. And so we're still finalizing the water safety plan, and would be looking to revisit that once that plan is finalized. And I believe we're proposing to take an update to the Environmental Health and Safety Committee on the water safety plan in June. So it's just a timing thing.
Yeah, thank you for that. Any other questions? Okay, we call for the vote on the motion on the floor. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Is that an opposed? No, okay, you're checking.
No, I was just waiting to get my hand up for the approval.
Okay, no opposed, any abstentions? No, motion is carried unanimously. Thank you for that, Kenda. I believe that completes our agenda for today. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great long weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You
Thank
too.
Bye,
you,
guys.
Pauline.
Bye.
Well done
This afternoon, Reed.
and
Thank
bye.
Thank you.
Lucian.
Thank you.
Happy
Please
Easter,
do
everyone.
find Louis.
Happy Easter.
Happy Easter.